Hey everyone, this is Will from Beijing, China, and welcome to this brand new and exciting episode of The Missing Piece. Keep in mind that right now we are just still in the first month of 2022. And if you are one of the people like me, I always make a lot of New Year resolutions. But let's be honest, it's really difficult to stick to the goals or even let alone to pursuing this for more than 3 or 4 months. And meanwhile, if you read the number statistically, then we know a lot of people this year particularly, they're still not being quite optimistic about the future, especially about the pandemic. Either they have enough excuses of leaving work, or they found no motivation to pursuing the new career, let alone taking responsibilities for the family and friendship, etc. And I think that's why this episode would like to take a break from all the politics and from all the social issues, but let's talk about one of the critical matters that we need to address on the show. It's called individual growth. Now, don't get me wrong, I am not the expert. I just mentioned I'm about to give up on my New Year resolution. So that's why I want to invite one of the profound expert and a coach to join our episode. Her name is Angie Ruiz. Now, she's the founder and the CEO of Become Better, and lately she came out with a book also called Empower and the Journal. So that's why I am so much looking forward talking to Angie and this professional coach to teach us how to stick to the goals and how we're supposed to adjust our attitude towards life. Angie, welcome to The Missing Piece.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Angie. Now, as I mentioned before, I am one of the people that would love to set new resolutions at the beginning. You know, not only that I learned that from the years that I live in America, but also I found, it's helpful to set up goals and purposes. But here's the question is today, especially in the midst of the whole pandemic, why does it seem even harder to keep up with the purposes or with the New Year resolution? What do you say on this?
I think there are different factors that have an influence on how fast we give up or how fast we lose focus. And I think one of those is just we are overwhelmed. It's just too much on our plate. And I think one of the first mistakes we may have when we set New Year resolutions is the fact that we just have a long list of things, right? Or probably we maybe haven't thought about what is really, really important to me. So in my eyes, when we talk about goals, we know smart, smarter. We all know these models, but goals, they can be best accomplished when we have into account some psychological aspects. And this is something that not everyone knows.
Angie, I like the part where you said it's not just about making goals that, keep on telling us that, I want to lose weight or I should lose weight or maybe I should quit smoking, but also in this psychological perspective. But let's be honest, Angie, since the pandemic actually turned the entire world upside down, and people are still being so bitter about the life before, it seemed to me that we have more excuses not to take active actions or not to take necessary actions. For example, I prefer not going out to make friends, or I prefer not to taking care of my body because simply saying that I am so vulnerable emotionally. Why do you think people are saying that this type of things that to each other or even to themselves, comparing with we didn't really pay attention to those kind of needs before the pandemic. So I guess the funny question we should ask is, does the pandemic reveal the vulnerability of human beings today?
I think yes, absolutely, because every circumstance or every environment where we feel less confident produces anxiety, right? So under these kind of negative emotions, we are not so well or so good in the position in order to make the right choices. We don't have maybe so much energy as we used to have before the pandemic, right? So this uncertainty and these different conditions, all the negative things that have been like accumulated over the time of the pandemic, is of course something that we need to first get rid of in order to move on with the right emotions and with the right energy to achieve our goals. Yeah.
But Angie, again, it sounds so easy to say, but it's so hard to get it done. And now let me ask you, you have been in this coaching business for so many years that I'm sure that you dealt with a variety of clients. And again, just let's say if I were to be your one of your clients and to really need some advice from you, I think the simple question I want to ask you, Angie, is how can I stay positive all the time? Or do you always stay positive since you're a coach? You know, when you're getting so drawn by the negativity, or when you're getting so distracted by the negative news, you know, on the media, or something or someone perhaps that ruined your day when you're in this positive mood. How do you motivate yourself, or how do you stay positive all the time? Because I can't do that, because you know, it just has so much going on the daily basis. How should I encourage myself? How should I be optimistic 24/7?
My answer to that is it's not possible, because we are not robots. So there should be the intention there, and the main intention is acknowledge first the negative feelings. They do exist, and we don't want to fake anything, because that's also not healthy. That's not human, right? So first thing is to acknowledge the negative things and say, okay, they do exist, and I feel like this. But this is not something I want to carry with me the whole time. I don't want to make this an excuse. Pandemic and being alone is not an excuse not to make friends. Maybe I can make friends online. So imagine, if I may use an analogy, if you put your hand on the stove, you will burn your hand, right? So you have this sensation. The moment you feel the heat in your hand and that's too much and that hurts, you remove your hand from the stove, right? The same thing we should do with the negative feelings. We don't want to remain feeling negative feelings the whole time. There are things that may have happened, but it depends on us. How do we process that, and how do we move towards a more neutral or positive state of mind? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Absolutely. And I believe that was a perfect analogy, that using the example to say, we know when our hands are being burned, and we should immediately pull away from the fire and not just stick our hands continue on the flame. But let me ask you the next question, Angie, is, as a human being, I think one thing that we are so what I called relentless in doing is to change people. I don't know if I say that you know, many of our viewers or people who are listening to our show are actually nodding their heads. But one thing I can tell you is we are very much interested in changing the people around us, especially the ones who are close to us. You know, I want this person to change, become a better, maybe a spouse, or make the person to become more patient, or I just hope and that I'm able to nag the person every day so that the person is going to get rid of the habits. Angie, why are we doing this? Don't you think that the more we want to change others, actually the more, how can I say, trouble or headaches or anxiety that we bring upon ourselves? But even though we know that we can't change others, but why are we still doing this? We can't stop changing the things or changing people that we can never do in our life. Why are we doing this?
My answer to that is because that's easier. You have the perfect excuse. It's the others. It's not you. But at the end, what you see in others is also your reflection. You know, if you let yourself become upset or angry because someone has done something to you, well, these are the external circumstances. But how do you deal with that? You have the responsibility. And this has a lot to do with empowerment. Yes. So I'm not depending on the circumstances. My feelings, they don't depend on what happens and what other people do to me. They depend on myself. So I can deal really with negative people. Of course, it costs me more energy, but I can deal with them. Yeah. I don't want to change them. I wish I could. And from my perspective and my experience and profession, I really like guiding these people to see and to become aware, this negativity and this way of behaving, this is not beneficial for me. This is not helpful, right? But I can always stay grounded and be aware of this is the reality, it's not how I see the things. So I can always influence the way I feel. This is something we can do with self-command of our minds.
Angie, I'm very glad that you were holding your book. And again, as I mentioned in the intro, you recently came out with a brand new book, and congratulations. And the book is called Empower. Now, Angie, what is the purpose for you to write that book? So again, as we checked before the show, I mentioned that as I went through the book, there were a lot of motivational quotes, or even the quotes are so inspiring and also realistic for the readers. And also there are space that for people to take notes. But meanwhile, you are the coach, but we're not. We're the average human beings. So how could we be empowered through what you presented in the book? So in other words, what would you like the readers or the participants to accomplish by reading your book?
Yes. What I would like, or my aim when I wrote this book was, and is still, that everyone that uses it, and this is something to work on. So it's really a workbook. It's a journal. It's not something just to read for, get new ideas. It's just really to work and write down. My main aim is that people realize and rediscover how powerful they really are. Because this is something we forget. We forget it. Circumstances are really stressful. We feel powerless. We are overwhelmed, as I said before. You brought the topic with the pandemic. So we always have the chance to reactivate this power in us. And we do this through introspection and getting aware of where we are and where do we want to be. So awareness plus goals. And when I say goals, and this is something we mentioned before, you asked before in the conversation, the purpose is one of the keys to go and to move towards those goals.
Angie, I want to ask you, because I realize in one of the chapters, or should I mention one of the content that you dedicate in the book, if I can interpret it well, I guess the word would be identity. So which means who you are. And throughout my life, as you live in different countries and move from different continents, and I had the same or similar experiences. And especially among the younger generations today, Angie, catch this. Younger generations, the millennials, regardless they're Chinese or they're Japanese or they're Egyptian whatsoever, they tend to say, for this year, I just want to be who I am. Or I just want to pursue exactly who I am supposed to be. Now, on one side, people will say, wow, that's a great purpose, because we are able to find out what we are made of. Our personalities, our characters, our strength, and our weaknesses. But on the other hand, people could interpret this message as, this person, it's not easy to please because it's so difficult. Or the person can be, if I can go the word called, so arrogant, The person refuses to change because the person just want to be who he or she is. So you are the coach. How should we correctly or how should we fairly understand the sentence is, I just want to be who I am? Is that really a good thing, or that should be something that can be said in a more, I don't want to say creative ways, but more acceptable ways? What is your take on that?
The powers have a lot of, words have a lot of power. And I'm convinced that wanting to be yourself is one of the highest goals we have. Because identity is based on our values. Yeah? And our values on our beliefs. So if we can really be authentic and really behave and be who we are, that's the greatest gift, the greatest goal we can have, and understand why are we here on this planet, right? So I don't associate this with arrogance, because that doesn't mean that if I am who I am, I'm not going to change myself. I cannot evolve to become a better human being. I cannot upskill myself, improve myself. That doesn't mean that I'm not changing, right? So if you said, or someone says, I want to be myself, this is a great goal, because this is a journey to discover who we really are. When we are born, we are probably very close to the essence we have, to our souls. But when we grow up and then we learn how to behave, and you mentioned the word please, we want to please others, we start modifying our behavior in order to please others, in order to be accepted, to fit. And this causes sometimes that we are not really living who we really are. So we start kind of building protections or layers, I would say, around our soul or essence, character. And it takes some time really to unveil who we really are and really shine with the essence we came to this world, with the purpose we have, with the difference or the impact we want to make. So this is absolutely one of the highest goals in my eyes.
Thank you, Angie. No, I know you're very busy. I got two more questions before letting you go. And now let's discuss career. As we are stepping into 2022, and again, based on the report, if I'm not mistaken, in the US, last year alone, almost more than 30 to 45% of the people either who pondered about leaving the job or they refused to go back to the job where they used to work at. And the excuses are very simple. They were less motivated to going back to work because of the pandemic. Now, coming to in this new year, there are still a lot of people who are actively changing jobs or seeking new careers, or perhaps that become entrepreneurs because there might be new opportunities, But it seemed to me that it only stayed with the mentality for a few months, and that's it. So after that, once they face obstacles, once we say they face challenges, more likely to give up, and more likely to quit. Why does that happen? I mean, even though, let's say you had a goal, and this is the big transition individually speaking, but why would people want to leave their job and to start something new and take this risk? Why is that happening to us? So that's the first question. And the second question is it really that we can blame everything on the pandemic to say, I am not motivated to work because the pandemic? I am not motivated to get a new job because the pandemic. Can we use the pandemic be the only excuse to shelter or to protect our feelings? What do you say, Angie?
Let me answer first the second question, because this is, I think, the key to resolve the first one.
Sure.
You said this is an excuse. We can always find excuses, and we humans, we are really programmed to behave like this, to find this kind of excuses or resistance to change, because we are afraid of changing. As you said, it's going out of the comfort zone. It's going into the unknown. So it needs courage, right? And it's empowerment. This is the first thing. Second thing is, as we said before, any change brings a lot of opportunities with it. So if we rather see any change less as something that it's associated with fear, but more something associated with opportunities, chances, growth, then we will be more on the path of and probably reaching our goals through this kind of change. Now, first question was, why do we quit, or why do we don't stick to the goal? Why do we give up? It doesn't matter which goal you have. If it's having a new job, becoming an entrepreneur, losing weight, quitting smoking, all the goals, we need to have a really and clear motivation. That's purpose. So if we don't find the meaning on the goals we are pursuing, we will fail. We really need to be clear on the why. Why do we want to achieve this? Why is this meaningful for me? Why am I doing that? Why I am, in case of the job, why am I jumping out of the bed every morning? What motivates me? If this is not happening, it's hard to become perseverant and to take all the baby steps it needs in the journey to get and achieve the goals, right?
Angie, my last question, I want to land on the word called content, which means satisfaction.
Yeah.
How important it is for us to be satisfied or to be content about where we are at. Because I remember back in the days, my father always tells me this sentence. If you are not happy about where you are right now, and you will never be happy when you get to the place that you want to be. So in other words, if I'm always complaining about the now and I will never be happy about what the future holds. To some extent, I see where my father's coming from, and I appreciate the valuable advice. But meanwhile, there's something, again, going back to the circle, is I cannot change the people around me. I want to be happy. I want to be satisfied. But people around me tend to be a complainer or tend to be dissatisfied about their circumstances or situations or etc. So I don't want to be influenced by the negativity. And I don't want to be, impacted by this complaining or the pessimistic attitude. So that's why going back to the question is, how can we be satisfied, or should we be satisfied so that we can really understand or appreciate the bigger picture, Angie?
First of all, wise words from your dad. Second thing is, that's super wise. And second thing is, contentment comes from appreciation. You mentioned also the word gratitude. This is very important. Whenever we feel thankful for the things we have, for all the abundance we have in our lives, this makes make us feel really great, right? So this is something we can practice every day, every morning or every evening. The other thing is looking at your successes. What have you accomplished so far? Not what is missing. Celebrate success. These are great things to feel fulfilled and content.
So in other words, I see your point again, being grateful, and that's number one. And number two is, again, I learned, Angie, is to celebrate or learn to celebrate the success. Again, I assume that it doesn't have to be a major success, but anything that considered as a personal achievement, little by little, and that's still considered as quite accomplishment. And the last one, it's really to be satisfied or to be appreciative. And again, going back to the first one, being thankful or being grateful about everything we have. And I think, Angie, with all the tips that everything you shared, not only on our show, but also through your book, again, it's called Empower. And I believe younger generations, especially today, the millennials, I strongly urge everyone to go grab a copy of Angie's book, really start to go through the procedures. And if you have any questions, you can find Angie on social media and connect with her. And she is going to help you to understand not only how to guide yourself towards the positive way, but also to understand what has to be done in order to become more effective and productive in the year of 2022. So with that said, Angie, I really appreciate your time and thank you so much for being on our show. And I hope, I pray that your business is going to bloom in the year of 2022. And I hope that more clients are able to appreciate the good work that you're doing. Thank you, Angie.